Welcome back to the Young Adults for Christ podcast. Thank you for joining us. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing Christ centrality, so centering our lives on Christ, and then the impact of social media within that space.
Nice.
And who do I have with me, you ask? Well, I guess you know.
It's Brett France again. Thanks for having me on with you, Seb. I hear that there are some young people listening from our church who said, Seb, I want to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
So when are we getting them on?
As quick as possible, I guess. We've got to figure that one out.
Yeah.
Figure out times.
I remember you saying something we should do like a couch sessions.
Yes.
Where we put like a couch out and that'll be fun.
Yeah, I think a couch session would be really cool to have. So we're going to try to figure that out.
Nice.
Within the next, hopefully for the next episode.
Next episode, you're making promises now, hey?
I mean, the next episode is only 2 weeks away. So
Fair. Yo, bro, these weeks roll by quickly.
You
But
know,
also, Seb, I
definitely.
back you to pull it off. So,
Yeah.
And also, I feel like December, we could, if people are in town, like the church stuff will be slowed down. You won't have youth on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Young adults on a Wednesday won't be happening. We'll be down to just a 9 a.m. service. So we could probably start having a bit more fun, like start recording for a few episodes over
Yeah.
December.
And I think we can prepare maybe a few months in advance because we have a bit of extra free time.
Yeah,
Meaning-
we say that now, but like by the time December rolls around, I'm so tired that I just like zonk out.
And I don't even think, maybe it's not the tiredness. I think it's like December's not as quiet as we think it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because now we're on leave, we think, or not on leave, but like reduced work. We think,
Yeah.
okay, life's going to quieten down. I can spend more time with Jesus. I can spend more time with like doing things I want to do.
Yeah.
But the things I want to do become like overpowering on how much time I actually have. So like, where I think I've got 3 weeks to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
That 3 weeks goes like this. And
Yeah.
you're back at work.
Back at
Yeah.
work. But I am looking forward to the season quietening down because like you said, one of those opportunities that gives you is to kind of lean into God a bit more. And I guess that speaks into the topic for today is Christ's centrality in our lives and what does that look like. So maybe if you've got like a thought around that for you, Seb, what is a Christ-centered life? Or when we say Christ centrality, what do we mean?
So I think for me, a Christ-centered life looks like, and I'm not going to say my view is the only view,
Yeah.
but it looks like a life where you bring Christ into situations before the situation. So
Okay.
instead of going into a situation and then afterwards asking Christ to speak into it, bring Christ in before the situation happens if possible.
Okay.
So, I don't know, let's bring in a relationship because it's easier, or even a friendship. Bring Christ into that friendship before, meaning that the friendship is centered on Christ.
Okay.
So the same with life, I guess.
Yeah.
Bring Christ into your day before your day happens, so that whatever happens in the day, Christ is with you through it.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, because I think a lot of us
Yeah.
decide to, once a situation has happened, like then let's ask Christ what he would do. Let's bring God into this.
Yeah, like
and-
we have hindsight in our
Yeah.
things. That's good. I've got a definition here. So a Christ-centered life is one that is focused upon a commitment to Jesus Christ as Lord. And so like that's a nice big bucket statement
Yeah.
that then flows into everything else. So like what you're saying, so Jesus Christ is Lord. Therefore I submit all things to him before they've happened, when they're happening, and after they've happened. And his lordship rules over everything. And like guess it kind of almost comes down to the sense of motivation. So a Christ-centered life means that Christ is your motivation for your life. Other people might have, the quest for pleasure as their motivating thing, or maybe their life goals, or their job, or even their families.
Yeah.
And those aren't all bad things, but if those are the only things motivating you, it's a chance that they'll fail you, you'll be let down, your life will come crashing around you. Whereas a Christ-centered life is a life that really can't be rocked by the storm, because we're centered on Christ, who is forever lasting, he was, is, and still is to come.
Yeah.
And so whatever happens around me, I'm centered on Christ, and I continue on within my family, within my goals, within my job, within enjoying life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for me that, or didn't remind me, but I mean I've heard it said very similar, but in a more practical way. I think for us as humans, because I think, or us as fleshly beings, should I say, because it was a question that's asked to us: what does your list look like? Like, what's at the top of your list? What's at the top of what structures you? And I heard a pastor say it once that that list is great, but Jesus needs to be the page you write that list on.
That's good.
And that sat with me since I heard that, because we've all got a list with what we want to achieve in life.
Yeah.
But if we are able to write that list on a Christ a backing of Christ, we're gonna, even if we can't tick off the thing that's on the top, we're still gonna hold structure.
Yeah, that's good.
Whereas if we back our list on that first goal at the top of our list, and we don't achieve it, the whole list falls away.
Yeah.
But if we back it on Christ, we've still got 2 till 10, let's say.
Yeah, that's good.
And we're able to still have that structure. So I think that goes back to like building your foundation on Christ, being him being the cornerstone.
Yeah.
And that is Christ showing us. I mean, I think of the parables, and I think of the parable of the rock. And I don't know if it's called the rock.
Yeah.
But where the Christ says, build your house on the rock rather than on the beach.
Yeah.
So that when the winds come, when the rains come, it will not be moved.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's a parable about building your life on Christ. So
Yes.
if we can center our lives on Christ, we won't be shaken in those hard times.
Yeah.
That are unfortunately
Going to
come.
happen. Yeah.
We're not going to live an easy life. It's it's not. If you're living an easy life, I mean, good for you. Can you teach me how to do it? Because unfortunately life happens and it becomes difficult whether we want it to or not. So,
Yeah, I think I remember, I'm reminded of what Tim Keller writes in one of his many books. I can't remember which one. It's Count of the Gods, I think. He speaks of how our hearts are idol machines. And so we were created to worship. We were created in the image of God, all human beings. And like religion, in any sense, Christian, whatever other religions are out there, are all man's attempt, well, I guess not Christianity if you're following Jesus, but like religion is man's attempt to get to God, because we were designed to worship. And so we will worship things. Even atheists worship stuff, so money, power, sex, rock and roll, whatever, there's something that is driving you, and that is the thing you worship. And because God made us to worship him. And so I think, that's where Christ-centered life comes in, is we worship Christ as Lord over all things. And then everything else falls into its rightful place of what we need to have. And so even a comfortable life, if it's probably a comfortable life because you've come to realize that chasing whatever the world is chasing isn't worth it, because you've got Christ, and and that's what Paul says, whether he has much or little, he's learned to be content in the Lord. And so I think a Christ-centered life really is just that. It looks like a content person. It looks like someone who is unshaken. It looks like someone who brings all things before God and requests before they even know they're going to happen. It's a life that is walking with Jesus, a life that is full of his presence. And people often, they'll know what you worship. Well, they'll know what it is, in you, because they'll know what you worship. If you love Man United and all you do is talk about Man United, no one needs to know which soccer team you or football team you support, because you clearly support them. And I'm not saying people base their lives on them, but like it's a clear thing that's the thing that is a massive part in your life. And so a Christ-centered life, I would hope that everyone knows I'm a Christian, that I am a follower of Christ, because I talk about him. I talk about his why he motivates me, how he's changed my life, and I worship him and I love him. If people don't know that, if people didn't know I was a Christian, they're like, oh, you're a Christian. I'm probably not that Christ-centered,
And I think that goes back to, I think it's 2 podcasts ago, the one where we spoke about mission, where we need to be able to put ourselves away and try and show more Jesus. And I think that takes me straight to a verse on that, and it's Luke 9:23, where it says, And he said to all, if anyone comes after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me.
Yes.
So like, we need to be able to say goodbye Sebastian, goodbye Brett, hello Jesus every morning.
So good.
And when we go out, remember that we're carrying our cross.
Yeah.
We've picked it up and we're now walking alongside Christ and being ambassadors of him in that space wherever we are.
That's good.
And like, he's going to bring fruit out of any situation. It might be a bad situation, we think, but he turns evil into good. So like, we need to, as long as we are able to keep our lives centered on him, around him, wake up, go to him for food, we'll be able to weather the storm, like it says in that parable we spoke about a few minutes ago.
No, that's good, bro. And I think we also, like, I read this in an article that I have open in front of me here from God Questions, the place I reference every time we come here, because they have the God Questions. They've got answers. They should have called that. They've got answers.
Patenting that right now.
Yeah. Let's get it. We've got answers, and we'll just basically link people back to God Questions because it's so good. Oh, so you make me laugh. But something they said, which I really enjoyed, was that they said the secret to living a Christ-centered life is understanding the fear of the Lord. And they reference Psalms 19:9 and Proverbs 16:6. And they said the fear of the Lord is the continual awareness that our loving Heavenly Father is watching and evaluating everything we think, say, or do. Those who live Christ-centered lives have developed a tangible awareness of the presence of Jesus. And that's Matthew 28:20. And so, like, I think sometimes, we live in this in a culture at the moment where freedom and the right to do as you please is the highest level of like wokeness, or the highest level of freedom. But that can't be true, because we still have limitations in every area of life. Like, there can't be such a thing as total freedom, because disgusting things that are clearly against the law would then be allowed. So there's a level of what we allow and don't allow. And so, like, currently we're saying, well, within those levels, you do you, live your life, blah, 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 which isn't true, because if Christ is the King of the world and my life is centered around him, I have to do what he tells me to do. I have to obey and live in connection with him and his teachings and all that he's called me to obey. That's Matthew 28:18 as well, teaching them, that's what they've referenced here, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. So we don't just go out with a Great Commission, baptize people and say, as you were. We teach them to follow the commands of Christ. And how do you do that? By being in communion with Jesus every day of your life, what you were describing. And so that's what a Christ-centered life looks like. It's a life that is following the commands of Jesus, doing exactly what he's told us to do. And how do we do that? Because that's a very tall ask. Well, we live in communion with him and open our hearts to him day in and day out. We submit to all that he is.
Yeah, and I think, like, was it Pastor Richard this past Sunday where he said, like, there's always that door we kind of have where we don't allow Jesus into.
Yeah.
And, like, we need to say to ourselves, that door's open to him too.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much
all of me.
Yeah. I think, actually, going back to Dave Myberg, one of his sermons from a couple of years back, I remember him talking on that whole let Jesus into all the doors of your life situation. And he brought it to a very practical space of saying, like, when you have people over, he used himself, and he's got two young girls.
Yeah.
And he said when he has people over to his house, and he tells the girls to clean up, and the girls go clean up, but they just put it all in their room, so the house looks fine. And then, but these people haven't been to his new house yet, or to your new house yet. Yeah. And you take them on a little escort of the house, and the girls' door or the kids' door is closed, and they're like, "What's in there?" And you're like, "Well, that's the kids' room," and you don't want to open it because it's a mess in there. And you don't want to show these new people. And he said, "But Jesus works in that space too. Like, he wants to be part of our mess.
Yeah.
So he wants to go into that door.
Yeah.
And he'll keep knocking, and we've got to be open to opening the door.
Yeah. Because he's the one who's going to help us clean it up.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
We can't do it ourselves.
No, I can't clean up my mess. My mess is a bit much for myself to even clean up sometimes. So
I can also just picture you with a messy room, Seb, I'll be honest.
I do have a messy room. I won't lie. My father can attest to that. But yeah, I think Jesus wants to be in those spaces because he wants to help us through it. And if we allow him to be in our lives and we center him on our lives, he will be able to help us in those spaces, those messy spaces, those spaces where we don't want other people to be.
Yeah.
But if we allow Jesus in, those spaces become cleaner, and then we become more, what's the wording? We become more like accepting to more people, like people we're walking life with, to come
That's
into
good.
those spaces and help us press
Yeah,
forward.
because again, like, I think this was attributed to C.S. Lewis, but I'm just one beggar showing another beggar where to find food. And genuinely, like, my life is messy, and I'm not going to tell everyone on a podcast my whole mess, but like, if you're doing life with me, you'll know where there are areas in my life where I fall short, and that's okay, because in that space where I am weak, there Christ is strong. That's what we read. So like, therefore let our weaknesses be seen to those that we trust and who are close to us, because it is in that space that we get to glorify God, and then I can be let into your mess, and together now I know what to pray for, and I know how to love you better and help move you towards Christ. But if our lives aren't centered on Christ, of course I'm not going to let you into my messy room, the messy parts of my heart that I don't want anyone to see, because I'm the center of my life, or my pride is the center of my life. And so that stops you from knowing what a broken person I am. Or my money is the center of my life, and that shows you, I've got credit card debt and I don't want you to know. Yeah, I'm just making stuff up here,
exactly,
but like, but if Christ is the center of our lives, fair game.
Yeah.
Like, come and have a look, and let's figure out how to love Jesus more as we go on this road.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's the beauty of fellowship under Christ, is that because he's the center, the walls fall.
Yeah.
And without those walls, I think, like, friendships, relationships become so much, not easier, but more open, which means that they're more fruitful. Because, I mean, talking about relationships being centered on Christ, like, I know that my friends who are not Christian, not all my friends that are not Christian, but some of them, they hide, but they don't speak about everything, like, that's happened in their past, that's happened, like, to them financially, whether it be financial, whether it be in other relationships. They don't speak about it with their significant other.
Yeah.
Which means there's always this, not animosity, but sort of animosity between them. There's a non-understanding of your past, should I say. Whereas, like, a Christ-centered relationship, because Christ is there, you're willing to open up to that person. You're willing to say, look, with my last girlfriend, I struggled with lustful thoughts over her, for instance. Like, I'm being open about that now because I don't want that to affect us going forward. Whereas previously, like, for myself, even in a non-Christian relationship, like, I know I would never have said that to my girlfriend. I would have just put it in the back, and it would have been my issue, and it would have stemmed into the current relationship. But I would have never allowed my significant other to understand that. So Christ brings us to a space of vulnerability with other believers, with other significant people within our lives, like you were saying, which means that we're going to have more fruitful relationships. We're going to have relationships that are hopefully going to last, because we center that relationship on Christ, not on ourselves. So it's a good cornerstone centered.
It's good.
So we are able to build a house or a friendship or a relationship around Christ.
Nice.
And the insides is messy. Every house has a mess in it. But with Christ, that mess is glorified. But I think we've kind of landed where Christ-centered life is. I don't want to say it's the only way to get there, but it's a good path to walk.
Yeah, it's in your Bible, it's in community.
Yeah. And so I think now I've had the privilege of seeing this in my own life, where I was on social media, I left social media, and like I realized the impact that social media did play on that Christ-centered life.
Okay.
So I think for me, a little backstory is we went into the global pandemic and we were all on social media. I was on social media. I had Facebook, I had Instagram, I don't know what other social media they are, but I had them. I probably had them.
Yeah.
And we went into the global pandemic. We got locked down here in South Africa. We got put into our houses for, I think it was 5 weeks, 5 and a bit weeks.
Yeah.
And like everyone went in, or at least the Christian community around me went in and said, "Oh, we're going to spend so much time with Jesus. We don't have anything else to do. It's going to be so great." But I think in that first 2-3 weeks, we realized, hold on, Instagram, Netflix, like these are all places we ran to instead of going to Jesus. And I think I came to the realization within that through different situations that happened through that lockdown, came to the realization that social media was a really bad influence over my relationship with Christ, and was bringing me more anxiety than it was giving me like that peace that we were searching for.
Yeah.
So I made the decision to get off social media as a whole. I ended Facebook, I ended Instagram, and I kind of cold turkeyed it, which wasn't easy, I won't lie, but it was a space where I then allowed Christ to come into those extra 2-3 hours a day that we were spending on social media. And I think I saw fruit within my own relationship with Christ. I felt a lot closer. So I think the reason I know that social media does impact our relationship with Christ and our Christ-centered lives is because I've been there. I've walked that path of leaving social media behind me and giving that extra time to Christ, allowing him into that space instead of the social media. So I think that's why, and I think from your side, you're still on social media, you're still on Instagram, you're still, you're old, you're on Facebook. Excuse me. Sorry.
Hectic, but yes.
I mean, no, because at youth, like if we mention Facebook, they're like,
oh my word, you gotta be on TikTok to get to
exactly.
the youth.
So like you're still on social media. How do you see the social media impacting, if you see the social media impacting on your relationship with Christ? Do you find it an issue? And if so, like how would you recommend people moving forward? Because I don't think the way I did it works for everyone.
Well, it's a good question, because I think so not only is social media, say, a time waster, but like I could be wasting, let's say I go on Instagram for half an hour when I wake up, which I don't, by the way, but I mean I did for a while, but it just made me super bleak with life. But let's say I went into social media for half an hour when I woke up, and then still had an hour quiet time after that. Like that's, it's not like social media or Instagram in itself is evil, and was I going to give that half hour to Jesus, so I was going to have an hour and a half quiet time instead of an hour quiet time? Maybe not in this hypothetical situation. I was going to just, I don't know, water my plants and faff around, make another coffee in the kitchen, like that kind of thing, So I think there's one side of the argument where it says like, well, I'm not actually, the time that I give up on social media, I'm not going to give to God anyway, so therefore I can keep going. Because I think you've done a fantastic example of what you could do by giving up social media and leaning into Christ more. Yeah. So to anyone who's saying, oh, but I wouldn't give more time to Christ anyway, I think that's silly. I look at your life and I think that's awesome the way you've done that. I think then on the other side of the coin is the social media is essentially a playground for my idols to get watered or for me to put them out there, right? And so what I mean by that, going back to Tim Keller's quote about like our hearts are idol factories, we were made to worship. So social media, either I can worship myself and I'm putting my stuff out there. Look at me, creating fans, creating followers, creating subscribers, all this stuff. I'm going after likes. I'm going after engagement. I'm looking at the algorithm, to get me out there, my brand. Well, then, your idol is you and your pride. And so in that sense, social media is stealing from Jesus Christ, who should be the center of our lives as a Christ follower. So therefore you say, okay, cool, well, I'll just switch it across and make Jesus the center of everything I post. Fine, and go for it. But I think, and then you'll put it under the guise of evangelism. But I'll say that's fine. That is definitely an avenue of evangelism. But evangelism happens when you're in someone's life, when you see them as a person, when you see them as the God-created gloriousness that is in front of you. And so if your Instagram and Facebook and stuff is all about God and it points you to conversations with people and people coming to faith, fantastic. But I don't think that happens very much.
Yeah.
And then I think in that same vein, so social media can be me promoting myself, which is me worshiping myself, or it can flip it around and it's actually a depressor, because I look at the life that my friends have and I don't have. But we forget that it's a curated life.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm only going to post my highlights. I'm not going to post the random walk I took from here to my car. But I will post that wonderful view as I came up around the mountain. But I was there for 1 minute of my life.
Exactly.
But now people think that's what I do with my whole life. And actually, I had this happen to me. So I went with Marilyn for our 2-year anniversary. We stayed at this beautiful place called Cliffhanger Cottage just outside Neisner. And it was our 2-year anniversary. We hadn't done anything for our first year anniversary because we were in lockdown. So I just taken the savings from that anniversary and just kept saving, and so managed to spend a really beautiful 2 nights in this place that was just fantastic. And I mean, I'd been away for 2 weeks. It was a long holiday, and I'd posted here and there about what we were doing on Instagram. But then when we got to this place, it was phenomenal. The view, the little cottage we were in, there was a wood-fired hot tub. My social media stories were pumped full of this thing, but it was for 2 days.
Yeah.
I get back from leave and everyone is like, my word, where were you? That place was stunning. I can't believe you got to be there for so long. And I was like, I was there from I wasn't even there for 2 full days, because check-in was 2 p.m. Then we had all the way through to 2 p.m. the next day, but then we had to check out 10 a.m. the next day, so it wasn't even 48 hours. And I was like, I was only there for a couple of days. Oh, your social media made it look like you were there the whole time.
Yeah.
And I realized I've curated a part of my life to put out there to say, look at this place, it's so kiff. And people are receiving that, and now it's impacting their view of me, their view of themselves. And in that arena, social media is just stealing joy. They're looking at my life and thinking, oh, I wish I could live that life like Brett. And I'm like, I was there for 2 days, it was phenomenal, and I wish you could have it as well. But then I'm going on social media and looking at my friends in the Maldives and thinking, oh, I wish I was in the Maldives. It's just, it steals joy. And so I think, to come back to your question, how do you do it well? It's again, our hearts are idol factories. So how do I enjoy food? I love food, but if I make food the center of my whole life, I'll be unhealthy. I'll waste my money and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I moderate it. I treat my body well as well as I can. I'm by no means a health expert here, but I moderate the food I have and I curate the food that I put into my body. In the same way, social media can be moderated and curated. So I don't follow, crazy, beautiful fitness woman, because that doesn't do well for my heart. My heart, I only want to have eyes for Marilyn. But social media realizes I'm a young white dude, and so it just gives me young white women to look at. And I'm like, no, stop it. Algorithm, go away, because they're trying to trap me. They want me to keep scrolling. Yeah. And they know that scientifically that's what guys will keep scrolling at. And so Marilyn has full access to my social media. If she sees stuff on there, that search bar, she and I've missed it, or I've done something wrong, or maybe I haven't gone and gotten rid of it, then Marilyn will delete it for me and say unlike or unfollow, or I'm not interested in this, whatever that is. And she has full access to do that, full reign. And and I have likewise for her, but basically her Instagram feed's just puppies doing cute things. No, legit, really. And now my Instagram is becoming more and more that, and I love it as well.
I think I need to change. Go back onto Instagram.
Yeah. So that's the thing, right? Like you can curate what you have, and you can choose how much you let it into you. So if you know that you are so good at infinite scrolling and 2 hours can pass, then put on a timer, or like there are apps out there that'll help you do that.
I think your iPhone even does it.
Yeah, your iPhone can do it. It says, hey, you've been on
Built in,
15 minutes, like, and you always ignore, you say 1 more minute or 15 more minutes or
Extra
whatever.
5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
But eventually it does tell you turn off for the
Oh,
rest of the
serious.
day.
So you see, like there are ways for us to learn to do it well. Because I think of 1 Corinthians 10:31 here. It's Paul writes, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God.
Yeah.
And so social media, Instagram, shame me hitting on Instagram, like that's just because I'm too old to be on TikTok. It's not evil, but there are evil people who will use it for evil.
Yeah.
And there are money-making machines behind these things that are trying to get you to live on the thing so that they can sell more ads. And you just need to be so aware of that and say, I am in control. Not you, Facebook, not you, TikTok people. I am in control of my usage, and Christ is the center of my life. And so I will enjoy watching puppy videos for half an hour because it genuinely gives me joy. And then Instagram, you can go away because I'm going to go be with my wife. I'm going to go do things that give me life. I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to praise God at church. You know, like we can use it well, but when it takes us away from being so focused on God, well, we start to really miss the point.
Yeah. And I think one thing I remember from social media, and I think a lot of people have spoken about, is like the presence of keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
And like keyboard warriors are there, well not there, but they become a negative input into a space where you could maybe be having an enjoyment. Like for instance, that weekend away that you spoke of, or those 2 days away you spoke of. If you had one person, oh, you live such a nice life, oh, you're a pastor, how can you? Like that would have put a dampener onto your life, and like it would have, maybe not in that situation, but it could have sent you into like a mental like riff with yourself, for instance.
Bro, you actually hitting the nail on the head, because after that, I actually said to May, I was like, I don't know if I can post those kinds of things because it makes people think my life is something that maybe it's not, or they think pastors earn too much money, or you know, I was in my mind, I was riffing in my mind about like, what do I do?
Yeah, you see, that's not fair on yourself, because you are able to do that. You still are able to live life to the fullest, even though you are a pastor. Just because you're a pastor doesn't mean you must live like I don't know how people think pastors should live. I don't know.
Just live in the studio and come out to preach and then go back inside.
And then you live on the church property somewhere and you can't leave the church property.
Property is beautiful. It'd be cool to live here.
I mean, I wouldn't mind living on this church property.
No, but you're right. Like there is this thing, like we have to plead poverty.
Yeah.
And by all means, like prosperity gospel, super wealthy pastors, we can definitely talk about that, because there is a level of like, there is I do believe there's 100% a line, but we're not saying pastors can't live their lives and pastors can't earn money and spend money, you know.
And they're allowed to also rest how we rest. If we as people coming to the church, a pastor can, and we go, for instance, on a weekend away, why can't that pastor also have that rest?
Yeah.
He's also a human being. He also needs to rest in a way that's enjoyable for himself. So but that's getting off the target now. But I think
bringing it back though, like in this line, it's still social media. So the people who are looking at my life through my social media lens, it's stealing joy from their lives.
Yes.
Because they're comparing, they are not sure of, all that kind of stuff. When actually, if Christ were, like, in that space, if Christ were centered, you would be like, I don't know, maybe the correct response is, oh man, look how blessed their life is. Yeah. You know, when I look at my friends in the Maldives, instead of me getting bleak that I'm not in the Maldives, I get to be like, yo, what a cool experience. Like, God bless them, keep them safe, bring them back to us. Thank you, God, that they got this opportunity, because it's worshipful. And if there is a space where they're abusing it, they are like, through social media, I'm seeing like bad stuff, then you don't have to worship everything you see on, like, praise God for everything you see on social media. You can go to that person and be like, as a Christ-centered person, I'm coming to you with something I'm not sure of. Like, you know, is that maybe the wisest thing to do? Should you be posting that? Because Christ-centeredness, my relationship with Jesus, understanding He's Lord over all, is pushing me to engage with you on this as a person instead of being a keyboard warrior.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think while you were talking, something that came up to me because you're saying, like, we're only seeing one side of them, is, like, I'm going to use your holiday again as an example. On Instagram, you guys went on this holiday and it looks amazing, and it was amazing. But people didn't realize, like, you saved for 2 years to get to that, because you didn't have your anniversary in 2020 because of COVID.
Yeah.
And then you didn't have it during... you didn't have
January,
your
June, it was
anniversary
lockdown
in
again.
2021 again.
Yeah.
Because of COVID again.
Yeah.
But then 6 months or 3 months after your anniversary, you happen to be going to Sedgefield on holiday anyways, and then you were able to take 2 nights out of that holiday with savings you've saved from 2 years to go and have this incredible experience. So everyone thinks, oh, this pastor's earning so much, or this person's earning so much money, he can go to such beautiful places. But actually behind it all, I haven't been on leave for 2 years. I've been saving to go on that leave, for instance.
Yeah.
So, like, we're only seeing highlights. We're only
You've seen the highlights of my life. It was literally like the coolest part of my life since my honeymoon, you know?
Exactly. So, like, we only seeing that the good of people's lives on social media, because unfortunately people don't want us to see the bads. So they don't post it on social media. So we go on and we're having a bad week, we're having a bad day, and we see, oh, this guy's on holiday again. Oh, this guy's doing this again. And we don't, like, we go into this, like, slump again. And we're like, oh, why is our life not as good as those people's lives? But actually, those people also have a tough life. They're just not posting it on Instagram.
Exactly, thank you.
Because you're only looking at their lives through the lens of social media, you're not walking with them, so you don't know the difficulties they go through on a daily basis. You're only seeing the goods. So that's where I think social media also plays a bad impact. We have started to look at people's lives only through social media, forgetting that we need to have a relationship with that person to actually understand what's going on in their lives. And we've kind of morphed what we think of other people's lives to our own lives, meaning our lives have become, like, delved down in our own brains, where we probably have just as good of life as them, just we're not open to posting as much of it online. Or maybe we are, but we don't go on as many holidays. We go on one big holiday, for instance. So I think we need to remember that social media is a lens into someone's life.
It's a jaded lens. It's the nicest part of our lives.
No, exactly. It's like you guys watching this here now. You see the back of this, and you see it's an iPad, but on the front it's got all the information that I'm talking on. So I'm only showing you the back of the iPad, but on this side there's so much more to my life.
Sure. Nice analogy, bro. You should come there right now.
Yeah, right here.
Well done, man.
So, like, we need to realize, like, social media is showing us the back of this iPad. But
they're well
on
put
this
together,
side,
friendly. It's the mess of
so
all our
mess,
notes
there's so much
and
like so much to really understand before we can get to the nice side.
I like it, bro.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but I think again, like, just holding to Christ as the center of our lives, it will protect us from jealousy. It'll protect us from anger. It'll protect us from finger pointing. And maybe it'll make us pray more for people who are living better lives, it looks like, than us, you know. So I think you fight the pull to social media, the pull to wasting hours and hours on social media, the joy it steals, or the self-promotion that you do, by making Christ the center, and it therefore puts social media in its right place, underneath Christ as King. I submit my social media to you. I submit my posts about my life. Lord, am I being prideful here, or am I just celebrating a fun activity? You know, and like, social media is good. Like, we can't, well, how you use it, but like, it's from God, right? Every good idea, every good thing is from God,
Yeah.
and it can be used for good. We can reach people who can't be reached because of distance and stuff. So social media is good if we use it right, just as sex is good. It's a wonderful gift from God. But if you abuse it, if you use it in the wrong places, it's not good.
Yeah.
So social media, it's not from the devil, it's not evil, but you can let the devil play in that space and steal your joy and steal from your time with God.
Yeah.
And I think that's it from me. It's in Brad's words, I could keep riffing all day about this. But
Your old man word.
my old man word, yeah. And we do have to wrap this up, otherwise we'll just keep talking. Any final words from you, buddy?
I think for me, I want to leave it on that whole, like, social media is the good side. There's so much more information behind it, like, and mess behind what's there.
Yeah.
And if we can remember, like, our lives are centered on Christ, that mess is there. It's with Him too, and He's helping us to bring that mess to a more neater mess.
Yeah.
He's not going to take the whole mess away. Nowhere in Scripture does it say that Christ will make life easy.
Yeah.
But He's going to help us to clean that mess and to make it point in a direction that is glorifying to Him.
So good.
Yeah, so I think that's where I'm also
Landing the plane.
I think you owed me a soda.
I owe you a soda for that one. Jinx. Nah, you owe me a soda. A soda. Are we American? Why do we say soda?
I don't know.
A Coke.
Oh.
Anyways, yeah. So Seb, thank you. Great thoughts. You're preaching on this on at youth on tomorrow.
Yeah, on Friday. So,
Friday.
Yeah,
Well, when people hear this, it would have been last Friday.
it would have been two weeks ago. Friday.
Yeah, we were recording early. Yeah, we've got a busy
Yeah.
week coming up. So, but Seb, just thank you so much for putting in work to this. I really pray and hope that your talk to the youth goes well. I hope this has helped order some thoughts, and we look forward to hearing how the talk went.
Yeah, I'm excited to do the talk. And actually, guys, Brett's also got two talks next week on community, which is
Yeah.
a very, very much part of who Christ is, community. So, yeah, good luck for those as well.
You can be praying for us when you
Yeah.
hear this. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Have a good one. Cheers.
Guys.